This is the podcast Your Spiritual Shift with hosts Jennifer Matthews and Carl Gruber. Your Spiritual Shift podcast. It's a show based on their online program of the same name. That's where Carl and Jen guide you to remember and implement into your daily life the truth about who you really are, a child of all that is, your source. We invite you to join Jen and Carl for each and every episode as they explore in depth the teachings and principles of true non-dualistic spirituality and their practical application. You can live your life without the ego's lack, attack, judgment, and guilt and thoughts of sin, and replace them with truth, unconditional love, innocence, pure joy, abundance, and a unity of purpose. Now, here's Jennifer Matthews and Carl Gruber with Your Spiritual Shift.
Yes, it's time for another episode of Your Spiritual Shift podcast, which was created in conjunction with my co-host, Jennifer Matthews. And as a companion to our 12-week-long course of the same name that we will be teaching online this year. Now, this podcast and our course are based on the non-dualistic true spiritual principles of the Modern Spiritual Guide, A Course in Miracles, and other companion non-dualistic spiritual teachings. We are truly excited to welcome you to this podcast and to our course. And now here's my co-host, Jennifer Matthews, to tell you about our featured guest today on the show.
Thanks so much, Carl. Well, our amazing guest today is David Fishman. He's the co-founder with Dr. John Mundy of the One Mind Foundation. Now, of course, we've been blessed to already have had John Mundy on this program, and now blessed again to have David Fishman on board too. David, like many students of A Course in Miracles, has been a lifelong student of the beautiful non-dualistic spiritual teachings of the Course, and now extends his learning by sharing and teaching it with the world via his books and the One Mind Foundation. He is the author of the books Into Oneness, Thoughts and Prayers on the Way, and The Open Mind, Loving Yourself. David and John's main teachings of their One Mind Foundation is the 12 core themes of the A Course in Miracles. David, a big welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Okay, thank you so much for that opening, Jennifer. And I appreciate you inviting me here to join and share what my experience is. And I look forward to a very happy hour.
Absolutely. And we've been looking forward to this interview. And we wanted to start off just by broaching a topic. You had a spiritual awakening in 1972 as a young Jewish man. And then you found the Course 5 years later. Was it difficult as a Jewish person to accept the right-minded spiritual teachings of A Course in Miracles that are written in the Christian vernacular?
Well, fortunately, someone told me to start with lesson number 1 and don't look at the textbook. I guess if I opened the textbook, probably I wouldn't be here today. So but I did open up lesson number 1, and even before I bought the books, and I saw it says, "Nothing I see here means anything." And that really struck me as true, believe it or not, because I had just done est. And est was the thing that kind of gave me a leg up, where I began to realize that the voice in my head, which we call the ego, is not really my best friend. So all the meanings that he gives to things don't really mean anything. So lesson 1 really spoke to me. And then when I looked at lesson 2, I said, boy, this is for me, because lesson 2 says, if it does mean something, then you're the one who's giving all the meaning to it. And then I did the first 50 lessons in 50 days. It took me 6 months to go through the reviews, because I hate to do the reviews, but I did do the course in 2 years, about 2 years. So that's not too bad for the first time. I didn't get into the text until I was at least up to halfway through the workbook.
Okay. And so what was there a defining moment that sort of like got you interested in A Course in Miracles?
Yeah, there was a few. One where it said, a miracle can save you 1,000 years. By the way, you count time. I said, my God, what am I doing anything else for? So that became a focus. And then when I got up to a lesson 189, which is I feel the love of God within me now, and I got to paragraph 7, which a lot of people really see that paragraph as a mind stopper, just stops the mind. He says, not only be still, forget everything you ever learned from anything in this world. He goes on to say, forget this world, forget this course. I said, wait a minute. He's giving me 1,300 pages and he's telling me to forget it. This could not have been written by a normal person. I mean, I didn't even know who Helen Schuckman was back in those days. I figured, well, someone wrote this book. But when I read that, I said, wait a minute, this is not written by an ego at all. Yeah. And that really deepened my focus so that I didn't look anywhere else.
I just before we got on here to do this little recording, I just watched your interview with our friend Fiona Williams a little while ago on YouTube, and you guys had a beautiful chat about faith and trust. Fiona's been a guest on this show also. But one thing I want to ask before we dive deeper into that, when you first started being a student of A Course in Miracles, what was the hardest thing for you to accept? Its uncompromising stance, about all that you thought the world was and who you thought you were. What was the hardest part for you?
To accept basically a specialness, which everyone who has an ego figures that somehow I'm more special than I'm doing the course, that's more special. And I think for the most part, it's letting go of specialness. Is that the question that you're asking?
Yeah. I mean, you're right. You're on that. It's just that, since we've been ego trained since we were born, and all of a sudden this beautiful truth is given to you. I mean, it's not easy for some people to accept. And I just wondered which part of that was hard for you.
I would look at specialness when you think that you're special and all of a sudden other people are more special than you, and say, oh my God, how come I'm not as special? So the idea of equality, and the course says, listen, the goal of this course is peace. Peace is the key to the kingdom, and of course, if peace is the key to the kingdom, that's what you want. But it says it also has one condition. Peace has one condition, and that condition is equality. I must be willing to see my brother as myself. Otherwise, there is no peace. That takes the sting out of specialness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest issues in our society at the moment is judgment and self-judgment as well. So. And that comes back to that equality issue. It comes back to us judging other people for how they are, who they are, and not recognizing that we're all one, and we're all brothers, and we're all, we should all be treating each other the same that we would like to be treated. So absolutely, I think that's something that we learn as we go through the course anyway. So fantastic. Now, you had a near-death experience in 1980. Now, what happened and what role did it play in your spiritual awakening and your growth?
Well, I can relate what the experience was, and then we'll look at what actually developed after that, which I'm not really sure, other than I am what I am now. So something good happened, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was 40 years old, and in the Jewish faith, when you're 40, you're invited into the Kabbalah, which is the mystical side of Judaism, as Jesus was an A.C.I.M, which is the mystical side of Judaism back in those days. And the A.C.I.M is the same as the Kabbalists today. Mm-hmm. And I noticed no one was knocking on my door, invited me into the Kabbalah. I was a follower of Rajneesh, who's Osho now. Mm-hmm. And he has a book called The Book of Secrets, which I happen to have purchased. And one day I just happened to open up the Book of Secrets, and there it says how to open up the third eye. Mm-hmm. I said, wow. And I read about it, and it said, do not do this if you have any self-destructive thoughts, because they can self-destruct. And even mentioned that Pythagoras, which learned the secret in Egypt, waited till many years later when he returned to Greece to actually do that. Mm-hmm. I figured, well, I've been doing enough work on myself. I had had my spiritual awakening 7 years earlier. I had done S for a couple of years. I'm doing the Course in Miracles. I said, I'm ready, Well, all I can say is I did do it, and I had a headache that you could not imagine. I mean, nothing would take away this headache, nothing. And I was lying there on the bed next to my future wife, and I could hardly think. And all of a sudden, there was a jolt of electricity that started the crown and started soaring right through my body. And my thought was, oh, this is how I'm going to die. That was the thought I had.
Yeah.
I had another picture of a chessboard in which the entire chessboard was one small square on a much larger chessboard that extended on into infinity. And then the next thing I knew, I was floating above the room, just very peaceful,
Wow.
very quiet. I looked down and I saw myself on the bed next to my future wife, who basically was just lying there with me. And I wasn't, saying, oh my God, something happened to me. There was no sense of anything happened. I was just peaceful. The thing that happened after that was Suzanne. I mean, I must have been there for a few minutes. I have no idea of time. Suzanne said, "Did you put another quarter in the meter?" Because we were living in New York City at the time, and the car was parked next to a meter. And she asked me, "Did you put a quarter in the meter?" Which is actually the symbol of buying more time. When you put a quarter in the meter for your car, you're buying more time. Instantly, I was back in my body. The pain was gone. And that was the experience.
Wow.
Many people ask me, well, what do you think all of that means? And I guess I always wanted to know what the future was like. What is the future like? And I guess I was given a glimpse of the peace, of the peace that is. And I guess my function in this world was still not complete yet.
Not
so
complete.
I came back to complete it. That's all I could say about it.
Yeah, it's interesting because people that I've watched stories with that have had near-death experiences, and they prior to it they've been frightened of death, and then afterwards they weren't anymore because they had this sense of peace of what it was like after you actually passed across. So did you kind of have that sense when you came back into your body?
No, I have no fear of death. I mean, I don't know if it started before that or after that, but I saw that I was given an opportunity to see what an out of the body experience is. And of course, if you're doing the Course in Miracles, you know that you're not a body.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. Fantastic. Okay, Carl, do you have next question? I'm sorry, I'm hogging up the microphone here.
No problem. I was just wondering again, because I've interviewed Gary Renard. I've been to his workshops, and Gary talks highly, like you, from the 70s of the EST program and how it was a great precursor to becoming a student of A Course in Miracles. What exactly did EST stand for, and was it a non-dualistic program? I don't think it exists anymore as a program anyway.
It does under different names now. Landmark Education it had another name after the S, but it's still all the same. EST, Earhart Seminars Training, because it was Werner Earhart that started it, Earhart. And S also means in Latin, it is. And one of the understandings that you finally come to at the end of the 2 weeks that you do the training is that everything happens perfectly exactly the way it is. It couldn't have happened any other way. And the ego is always saying, oh, if only this shoulda, coulda, woulda. And you get to see that you're accountable and responsible, and that your cause. For me, the greatest thing that I got out of the S training is recognizing that the voice that I listen to is not my friend. That gave me a big head start into the course, so that I understood the ego before I even got into the course. That was very helpful to me.
Yeah, what a beautiful way to get set up for A Course in Miracles. Yeah. I really appreciate that. One of the other things I'd like to know is, and I mentioned to you off the air, we've had your cohort, Dr. John Mundy, on the program. How did you end up matching up with John and starting your One Mind Foundation program?
Well, well, I knew John way back in the 70s. If I said that we kind of dated some of the same women, that's true. We had that kind of a relationship. I did not know he was doing the course, and of course he had met Helen Schuckman even before the course was published. He's one of the only people around that actually knew Helen at that level. Later, he married my wife and I. He was Reverend John Mundy. He was a Methodist minister, and he married us. As he'll tell the story, of all the couples he ever married, we're the longest running couple. My wife just passed a few months ago. I just want so we were married for 40 years. We were with each other for 43 years, and it was a very happy 43 years. And I just spoke to her a few days after she departed. My daughter said, "Why don't you ask her if she can give you a sign of her presence?" And I did that, not knowing I was going to get an answer. And not too long after, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, I heard very clearly in her voice, "I am happy."
I'm here. I'm happy.
Happy.
Yeah.
I am happy. And I realized that our marriage vows, which I made 40 years ago, is that we gave our holy relationship to the purpose of remembering that we are one. And we were one then, and we were one now, and we're always one. And why would that change if her body was dearly departed? She's not dearly departed. We are one.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And so, what came about the name of the One Mind Foundation? So how did you guys come up with that?
Okay, well, I did start One Mind in 2005, 6, something like that. And it's what the Course in Miracles is all about, that we are of one mind with God. We all share the one mind of God. There's nothing outside of the one mind.
Yeah.
The one mind is the mind of peace, love, truth. It's who we are. You know, we all share the same purpose of remembering our one mind, literally, which is our home, which is heaven.
Yeah, exactly. And so, what is your vision for the One Mind Foundation? Is it to get the word out to people about A Course in Miracles, or?
Well, the original vision was to empower others to empower themselves. And to get the word out. Sure. I guess that's what I look to do on a daily basis. But people need to remember that it's their own powerness, their own powerfulness that allows them to become cause and remember the truth. There's a line in the Course in the last unanswered question, chapter 21, section 7, that says, "Can't you see that all of your misery, 100% of your hurt and your feelings of pain and suffering, all comes from your strange belief that you are powerless?"
Yeah.
So in a world where we seem to be deprived, seem to be denied, seem to be a victim, seem to be, it's up to us to remember the truth of what we are. And so One Mind does all that it can to help people empower themselves. No one can do it for you, only you can do it for yourself.
I think what you just said, David, is a message that is needed now more than ever, because so much of the world right now feels like a victim and powerless. Yeah, thank you for that message.
Yes, yeah. In a divided world, you do feel that you're abused or taken advantage of or unfairly treated. And there's no accident that one line where he says, beware of the temptation to perceive yourself unfairly treated, because in this world you will be unfairly treated. And if you really get to hear what he's saying in the Course in Miracles, we want to be unfairly treated. We want to be unfairly treated, because that means that we can complain and we can feel unloved and blame God for not loving us and making us special.
Absolutely.
You gotta really laugh at the premise of this dream that we are the dreamer of.
Well, what doesn't the Course say that we take this life far too seriously?
Oh, absolutely.
Laugh at it.
Yeah.
I agree totally. So what are the 12 core themes that you and John teach?
What are the what?
The 12 core themes that you and John teach.
Oh, well, okay. After I did the course for about 27 years, around 2004, when I started A.C.I.M Gather, which is still existing, which invited people to take their place among the teachers, to develop trust, because I feel that once you develop trust, all things are given to you. As he says in the Course, trust would settle all problems now. Imagine that. Trust would settle all problems now. I have it on the back of my card. I don't have my card here, but trust would settle all problems now. So, in the manual for teachers, he tells you it can take a very long time to develop trust. But one of the fastest ways to develop trust, and that's my experience, is to take your place among the teachers. Because once you do that, and a lot of people say, well, suppose I don't know what to say, or, I'm not a teacher and I can't teach. And I always say, well, the italics that was given on page 28 of the textbook, that was given to Bill Tedford, it says, I'm here only to be truly helpful. I'm glad to represent him who sent me. I do not have to know what to say or what to do. He who sent me will give me what to say and what to do. And I will be healed as he teaches me to heal. So once you're willing to take your place among the teachers, as it says in lesson 154, I am among the ministers of God. And he actually says, you already gave your consent. So I feel that if you're doing the Course in Miracles, you are one of God's teachers. That you teach, as he says, you can't help. Everyone teaches all the time. What you teach is up to you. You're either teaching the ego's thought system or you're teaching spirit's thought system. Following lesson 154 is 155, where he tells you exactly how to be a teacher of God. Let me step back and let him lead the way. Let him lead the way. So the people who have come to A.C.I.M Gather over the many years have gone on to be teachers of other teachers. Without naming names, some of the top teachers who have thousands of followers have gone through, started their teaching at A.C.I.M Gather. I guess I will name a couple of names. There's Lisa Natoli, who started in 2005. Now her and her husband Bill have Teachers of God. They must have 15 or 20,000 people that follow Teachers of God. There's Regina Dornakers, who now is the head of Awakening Together Ministry that ordains many other ministers. So there's something about taking your place among the teachers that allows you to become spirit guided.
Yeah. And it's interesting, David, because I have another podcast as well called Superconscious Success, and that is compiled with the summit as well. And so I speak to a lot of people about spirituality and that's all the aspects of it. And I did my recent keynote for the start of the summit where I was talking about the power of connection. And it's the power of connecting with source and the power of connecting with that higher part of you, that you get to that place where God does lead the way. and he works through you. You become a vessel that just does the work that he's put you here to do. And it's quite incredible once you get to that state. So I think that what you do with your Gather group is truly remarkable, to be able to teach people that as you go along. So that's awesome.
Yeah. I want to say, anyone who wants to get in touch with A.C.I.M Gather, just go to acimgather.com or .us or .com. They both lead to the same place. We have a radio station, so anyone who takes their place as a teacher is on internet radio, heard around the world.
Okay.
And it's a great place. I consider it like a boot camp for developing trust. And trust is the one thing in the course that the course cannot teach you. The course can teach anything, but it cannot teach you trust. Trust is up to you to actually step back and allow to trust spirit to speak to you and through you. And that's like an art of letting go of thinking that you're in control.
And also, I think it's being able to differentiate between the voices of the ego and the voices of source coming through you. And I think that's something that you learn as you begin to trust, because you can start to hear the differences in the voices, and you know that if it's source coming through you, that there's nothing judgmental. There's nothing like it's all positive and it's all uplifting. And your ego works in very different ways. It works in fear. And so, I often say to people, look, if you, it's a puppy there.
I was getting my
oh, you're getting your book.
All right.
We were just about to ask you about that.
The reason I was getting the book is even though people think I wrote the book and my name is on it, but it was edited by a woman named Belinda. All that happened is it was something I was teaching when the internet first opened. There was no microphones, there was no cameras, no microphones. Everything was in text. And I was on a place called America Online, which we know is AOL. And she copied and pasted everything that came through me from spirit over a period of 3 or 4 years. She took the best of what she liked. She went to Kinko's and she turned it into a book. And she's the one that named it Into Oneness. And the same book exists. It's the same content. It's a little less expensive than the original, and it's called The Open Mind, Loving Yourself. It's the same content, but it's not something I wrote. It came through me. So, so I tell people, don't bother reading the book cover to cover. The book is spiritual, divine guidance. Just hold the book in your hand. Close your eyes, ask for guidance wherever you open up. On the left and on the right is your divine guidance. So divine guidance, which is given to us when we trust, is something that's coming and gives you exactly what you need at that exact moment in time. And that is a truism. The other thing I'd like to just mention is you asked about the 12 core themes of A Course in Miracles. It came to me back in 2004. When I first opened up A.C.I.M Gather, and we had teachers like Gary Bernard, David Hoffmeister, Jon Mundy, Robert Perry, a whole bunch of the best teachers in the course coming through, teaching from the teacher's manual. And I was listening. I asked Ken Wapnick, who was a good friend, to handle the clarification of terms in mind spirit, because I said, hey, Ken, who's better than you talking about mind spirit? And he hummed and hawed. He said, well, I'm not too good at the internet. And I had a partner at the time, Linda Carter, and she said, well, I'm up in Palm Springs and he's just about an hour south. So I'll come down and I'll use my laptop. You don't have to know anything about the internet. You just speak. And he said, okay, I'll get back to you. And halfway through that week, she said, I don't think he's getting back to us. So one of us has to do it. I said, okay, I'll do mind spirit. She said, do you want to listen to at least a tape that Ken does on the clarification of terms? And this is called the Introduction to the Clarification of Terms. And I think you find it, I think it's on page 77. I'm not sure of the teacher's manual. And it's a half hour on one page. And if you know Ken, And I consider Ken my teacher in the course. If you know Ken, he doesn't take a half hour on one page. So I'm listening to him speaking on this recording, and all of a sudden I hear it's like the voice of Jesus or Spirit speaking to me and saying, hey, Dove, close the book already. You think you're going to find yourself in a book? Books are words, concepts, symbols. God doesn't create concepts, symbols, words, books. And at that moment, I realized, if, this is about developing trust and allowing Spirit to speak to you and through you. At the same time, I also realized that I had kind of really understood the Course in Miracles, the 1,300 pages. I had gone through it a couple of times at least. And I realized that he says the same thing over and over again. It's like a pattern. And if you listen to Ken Wapnick, he's saying the same thing in every lesson. But I got it down to about 12 core themes. If anyone is interested, they can just write me at A.C.I.M gather, the number 7 at gmail.com. I'll be glad to send you those 12 core themes. Or you can go to our website, which is onemindfoundation.org. And the 12 core themes is right there at the website, although it has not been updated. If you want the newest version, because I do add every now and then something new to it, you can write me at that Gmail address.
Oh, excellent. We'll get those details and I'll put it on the show notes on our website anyway. So if anyone does want to get access to that, I definitely recommend it. I definitely recommend people go across and get their own copy of it. So,
and you know what David's been talking about, and you're real familiar about it. She calls them spiritual downloads.
Yeah, they're called my spiritual downloads. And I was actually doing another keynote, because during my summit I did 3 different keynotes the other day, and I was doing a keynote and I was starting to write up all of my notes for it, thinking that was actually going to be the best way of doing it. And then I had written all my notes up, and then all of a sudden I looked down and my finger was on the delete button and it deleted everything. And then all of a sudden I got my download from Source saying, you're not going to go from any notes, you're going to go from your heart. You're going to speak this keynote from your heart. And I just went, great, I'll just go on along with it. And it was the best. It was exactly what I needed. And it was that trust in Source and going, you know what? He believes in me. Source believes in me. I believe in me. And I think that's what we need is once we have that trust with Source, anything's possible. Yeah. And things just come through you and you can do more than you ever thought was achievable. So
Jennifer, that's a beautiful story. And that's the truth. Things happen perfectly. The ego says, well, why did that happen to me? I didn't want that to happen. No, everything happens perfectly. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me, which is the ego's mantra, I asked instead, what is this teaching me? What is this teaching me? And that's the shift. That's your spiritual shift, basically.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I find
our name says.
Right. Yeah. Well, I really find it pretty interesting that we've been talking a lot about being a teacher of God, because just over the last couple of weeks, I've been reviewing on a daily basis the manual for teachers in the A.C.I.M, and it says that you will teach there in that there's no choice. You will be a teacher. You can't help but be a teacher of God. And you also mentioned too, some teachers become teachers of teachers. Are there? And I got this sense from the course that some teachers just leave their form, leave their body, and they teach from beyond. For instance, perhaps Ken Wapnick is that. Do you think that's true?
Yeah. No, I feel Ken teaching me from where he is right now, right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as Ramana Maharshi said, as he was about to pass, and his disciple said, "Please, Master, don't leave us." He said, "Where would I go?"
Yeah.
Where would I go?
I'm never leaving. Yeah.
I think I heard Dr. Wayne Dyer relay that story one time. Yeah. Hey, you know,
Sounds like something he would say.
I want to ask you, I saw this on your website that you like to sign off with the statement, laughter saves lifetimes later. What exactly does that mean?
Well, yeah, there's a line that Ken Wapnick uses. It says, you know, if you take anything in this world seriously, the ego is messing with your mind.
Yeah.
Your willingness and ability to take anything that comes up for you, instead of taking it seriously, to look at it and recognize that it's not real, is your willingness to laugh at it now. Now, if you laugh now, you don't have to wait till later. A lot of people say, well, one day I'll have peace and I can look at it and laugh at it.
Why wait till one day?
No, the ego always puts things into time. But one day, you know, in the future, no, it's always right now. It's your present memory to look and recognize that you're the dreamer of the dream. This is not happening to you. You're making it up as you're going along. As John Mundy would say he talks about the mystics. What is a mystic? A mystic is somebody who recognizes that they've been making it up all along, and now they just want to be here now.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I mean, and that's what they say. Once you start to actually look at life as a game, look at life as something that we have created, as a like you said, a dream that we can change at any point. And I think that's a really important point to make. So the laughter saves lifetimes later. What does that mean? That means just laugh at life, basically.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, he says in the introduction, listen, this is a required course. You can take it now or you can take it later. It's voluntary. You know, you can take it later, but why would you want to take it later when the whole course is about remembering the truth of who you are now? You know, the ego says, well, I have some things to do. I got problems to solve. And the ego always has more problems to solve. And, you know, when you do lesson 80, he says, wait a minute, my problems are solved. Why am I putting things off till later? Anything you do in time is always of the ego. The only thing that's real is right now. Mm-hmm. Why not laugh now?
And
I don't have any problem with that.
I believe the A.C.I.M says that our job as students of the truth and in being teachers of light is to save time.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, exactly. You know, if I am present now and I'm receiving the word of God now, and Spirit is speaking through me now, in that peace, in that presence, that's healing all right now. Helen Schuckman's favorite line in the course was, the holiest place on earth is where an ancient hatred is replaced by a present love, for they have come. It comes from the section, for they have come. It's always in the present love, in the present memory, that you are one with God.
Yeah.
I and the Father are one.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the whole universe, the whole world is going through a crazy time at the moment. We know with the pandemic and everything else that's going on around the world that it's been a bit of a challenging time for people. How can people that are watching this interview utilize what you and A.C.I.M teach in order to overcome the stress and the fear and separation anxiety that the pandemic's caused? Because I know that's something that's really, getting to people at the moment.
Well, I could take the easy way out and say, well, the Course says I am not a body, which it repeats 23 times. It's the most often repeated lesson in the Course. I am not a body. I am free of the body.
Yeah.
I am still as God created me. And I guess for Course people, they do have an understanding that God creates spirit, and spirit cannot be contained in a body. Yes, we have a body, almost like you wear a mask, and the costume and the clothing allows you to attend the party that we're in right now. I use the word party. I usually use the word classroom. I see the world as a classroom where you come to learn lessons.
Yeah.
And in order to learn lessons, you're always learning lessons from the people in your dream, who you actually, if you look at the section called Dream Roles, It says, no one in your dream can do anything to you unless you have given him that role to play in your dream. So the people, as Ken Wapnick would say a long time ago, he says, listen, don't hang out with the people that make you feel warm and fuzzy. That's not where your lessons are. It's okay to hang out where you're feeling a little uncomfortable. That's where your lessons are. On my card, I say, be grateful for your triggers, for they reveal the underlying false beliefs that are causing you the pain and the hurt and being triggered. If you're being bothered, something is telling you there's something there. Now, it's not that this person outside of you is doing it to you. It's a prior judgment. And getting back to that word judgment, and because it's our judgments of myself and of others and of God that's actually doing the things to me. And judgments, God's son was never given the ability to judge. There's a line, it says, grandeur, which is of God, therefore of his son, establishes judgment impossible. Lesson 198, which, as you know, the last 20 lessons in part 1 of the workbook, any one of them is the entire course. And it says in 198, only my condemnation can injure me. Only my own forgiveness can set me free. So the function of a teacher of God or anyone who sees the world as a classroom is to forgive those judgments that aren't their thoughts. The thoughts you have in your head are not your thoughts. The thoughts that you hold, you share in the mind, in the one mind of God.
The one mind, the universal mind.
The universal
mind.
And if you do get in a situation like perhaps today in your daily comings and goings, and you start to get angry or frustrated over, we always hear you're never angry for the reason you think. And a lot of what you just said, explain that.
Yes. Lesson 5 was Ken Wapnick's favorite lesson. I am never upset for the reason I think. It has nothing to do with the things of this world. It has to do with you chose a teacher that's telling you to be upset and angry and mean and revengeful. And that's why you're upset, because you're listening to this voice that's not who you are.
Until I look back in my life, there's been a few people that just butt heads with, over and over and over. And I look at it, back then, of course, it was quite disconcerting. And I wondered why it was going on. Now that I've studied the A.C.I.M. and I look back, oh, yeah, they were teaching me about certain things in life and how to forgive and no longer be angry. So it took a little while, but thank you for the A.C.I.M. who's opened my eyes and heart.
Well, I've got 2 teenagers, so I'm forever learning lessons. And it's a good place to be able to look kind of outside yourself when a situation is happening and recognize that it's not, that it's your ego speaking, and that really, when you look at the situation, you go, is it really something that needs to actually be, I need to be upset about? Because a lot of the time, like you said, we take life too seriously. We're in this life to have fun, to live in joy, to learn lessons and to experience. And and we just take it way too seriously. So not me.
Well, Jen, we probably, no, go ahead, David. No, go ahead, David.
I was going to say, as lesson 28 says, above all else, I'm determined to see things differently. I mean, if you just go along with how the ego has taught you from kindergarten on and blame your teachers, your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your boss, if that's it, which is what the world is about, blame, shame, and guilt. And as you know, the Course in Miracles is that you are the Holy Son of God. You're guiltless, you're sinless. And as long as you see others at fault, you hold on to that guilt, and guilt demands punishment. And we wonder why these things happen to us. Up in lesson 190, he tells you why you do feel the pain and the hurt, because that's the lesson that says, I choose the joy of God instead of the pain. And in paragraph 8, he says, well, you paid a handsome ransom to feel pain and to feel hurt and to feel sorry for yourself. And then he tells you exactly why. you set out to deny your father the joy of his son. So if your father can't know you as happy, God's will for me is perfect happiness.
Yeah.
If God can't experience me as happy, I get to be right. God, you didn't do a good job. I want you to make me special, and you didn't do a good job. So I am unhappy. Well, guess what? That's right. Until you realize that you can choose once again. Above all else, I'm determined to see this differently. It's my own choices that got me here. How do I get out? Choose once again. That's the last chapter, last section. Chapter 31, section 8, choose once again. You made a lot of faulty choices. Now choose again.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's okay. We do make these choices, and that's okay, because that's how we learn our lessons. But there's nothing stopping us from making a different choice that is going to create a different result. Yeah. So absolutely. Well, what were you going to say, Carl?
Well, I was going to say, I know that David, who I love his nickname, Dove. I love that. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Has another program he's got to do in a little bit here, so we should give him a break. And I know, David, we've been blessed to have you on. We could talk to you for a couple hours, but thank you so much for being on Your Spiritual Shift. We really
appreciate it.
I have a couple more minutes if I want. I just want to say that not only do I invite people to come to A.C.I.M Gather, you can find us at acimgather.com or .us. It's not a place where you go to, but that'll give you the directions. It's on a place called Pal Talk, which has many classes and many rooms. We're just one of 1,000 anyway. It's called A.C.I.M Gather for A Course in Miracles. And a woman named Lynn Johnson is the admin, and she's one of the co-hosts at One Mind Foundation. And what I wanted to say is we have programs, deep dive into the textbook readings, which we do on Sundays and on Tuesdays, and deep dive into Teacher's Manual, which we do on Thursday evenings on Zoom. And I just started a new course based on going through the loss of my wife, and it's called Present Happiness Happens in Present Memory Now. And it's for anyone who feels that they have been grieving or mourning somebody who's dearly departed, and it goes on more than you would like. That there's a way of seeing that. There's another way of seeing it, where you can bring yourself back to being present and being happy. Just like my wife says, I'm happy. If she's happy, why aren't I happy too?
Yeah, exactly. And so we will have all of those links on the show notes and the YouTube channel and everything, so people can go to your website and check it all out. And definitely recommend it. But we are so grateful to have had you here today, David. It was great to meet you. And and I hope that your next engagement goes very well.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll speak later, David.
Thanks.
Okay.
Love you all. Thank you.
Bye. Love you too. Bye.